welcome to my channel. My name's Sam and this is Frugalisama, and this is day 19 of 100 days of sewing. Today I'm just going to do a quick tutorial on how to do an elastic casing in a dress, or it could be a jumpsuit as well, I suppose. But first of all, I'd just like to say thank you for watching. If anybody's new here, please consider subscribing, and thank you to everyone who's subscribed so far. This 100 days of sewing series is just a little side project for me, sharing my love of sewing and letting people know that sewing doesn't need to be an expensive or a difficult hobby. So within it I've got some little tutorials like this one today and some hints and tips and advice on how to sew relatively cheaply. So on to today's little tutorial. I was making this dress, which is the Luciana dress from Frugalisama, which is a free pattern. I reviewed it in my July makes video, and I was putting in elastic casing, which I'll just show you. So just got an elastic casing all the way around there, and I just thought it might be useful just to have a little separate video on how it's done. So I will just run a little bit of video of how I did it. First of all, can I just apologise for the state of my hair in the video tutorial? I just got out of the shower and it was all a bit of a mess. But for this tutorial, all you need is elastic, pen and a marking tool. This is just a little seamstress gauge that I use. And I also used a bodkin in this. But you can use a safety pin if you don't have one. These are relatively cheap to pick up, and I just added it to an order that I had from William G not so long since. And obviously sewing machine and your project. So this dress already includes the measurements for adding an elasticated waistband. But if you're working on something such as a dress or a jumpsuit that doesn't already include it, then you will just need to add a little bit extra to both at the top of your waistband of the skirt part and the bottom of the waistband on the bodice part. And obviously it would need to be, this particular tutorial would need to be separate skirt and bodice. You can add an elasticated waist to something that isn't separate. I've done that on a project before. But this particular tutorial is for when the bodice and the skirt is separate. And I will just show you a previous project that I put one of these casings in. You can see there, hopefully, you can see there, you've just got an elasticated waist in between it. And this is a kind of a self-drafted pattern made to look a little bit like the Bettine dress. Frontally in the buttons. We've got an elastic in the middle. So onto the tutorial. This is the Luciana from Frugalisama, and I'm just on the final steps. And essentially, to insert a case in elastic casing, you sew your bodice to your skirt, right sides together. So I've got my skirt the right side out, and I've got my bodice the wrong side out, upside down over the top of the skirt there. Hopefully you can see that. And then you're going to sew at 1 inch all around that skirt and bodice. I've put little markings on there because I find 1 inch quite difficult to follow on my guides. Absolutely no shame in that. You can do what you like. That little sewing gauge here, which is handy for all sorts of things, marked at the inch. And I've just marked all across there. You don't have to do this. If you can do that by eye, that's absolutely fine. Pinned it round and sewed at 1 inch. After you've sewn it, you press it all up to the bodice, and then you're going to trim the bodice part down to 3/8 of an inch. So all the way around there to 3/8 of an inch. And you press the skirt piece under by 1/4 of an inch, and you can do that all at the same time. Okay, so to make things a little bit clearer, I've cut out a little skirt and bodice so that you can see what's happening. Not very clear on the striped material. So here's our skirt, sewn to the bodice at a 1 inch seam allowance. So this is if we're inserting half an inch elastic. I've then trimmed down the bodice part to 3/8 of an inch, and I've pressed under the skirt part by 1/4 of an inch, and that's all pressed up towards the bodice. And you're left then with a casing like that you're going to sew as close to that pressed line there as you possibly can. So you've kind of reduced your channel by probably up to just over half an inch, something like that. So yeah, it should measure something around 5/8 of an inch, so it's just enough to get an half an inch piece of elastic in. And what you're going to do then is you're going to sew all along the top of the casing. And obviously your skirt and dress will be round like that. You're going to sew all the way around, as close to that fold as you possibly can, but leave a gap. You must leave a gap so that you can get your elastic into the casing. And a good inch, maybe 2, is quite enough to do it, but you just need to remember to do that. So if you're adding elastic to something that hasn't got elastic in the pattern, then you just need to know that you need the amount of your elastic plus the 2/8 of an inch seam allowance, and of course you can turn it over more than that if you want, but you need the amount of elastic plus the 2/8 of an inch, and then however much you're going to sew. So this is had 3/8 of an inch plus 1/8 of an inch, just wiggle room, because you need some sort of room to get that elastic through. You don't want it too tight that you can't get it in. You don't want it too loose that it's going to twist round. So yeah, sew it across there, leave a gap for your elastic, and then you need to thread your elastic. Right, so next step is threading the elastic. You just need to measure your waist and get it to a comfortable amount that you want, and just give yourself a little bit of overlap. I usually leave about 1 inch either way, and cut that off. And I've got a little handy dandy bodkin here, which I find that a lot easier, but obviously you can just use a safety pin. Check before you sew your casing up is just to make sure that your elastic's not twisted. So I've been all the way around to make sure that the elastic's not twisted. So I'm just now going to go back in with the machine, close that gap up there, and then give it a good pull to make sure it's all evenly spread. And I used a zigzag stitch on the elastic and went over a couple of times for a good inch zigzag stitch across there, and then it's nice and secure. So once it's all sewn up and you've got your elastic in, you finish it off by sewing the gap, and that's what it looks like when it's finished. You just need to pull on it to stop it any twisting, and if you want to, you can. To stop the elastic twisting round, you can just sew down, turn it the right way around, and put a line of stitching down your side seams. I haven't done it because it's quite tight, is this elastic, and I don't think it will twist. But if you just put a line of stitching down each side seam, that should stop it from twisting around, if that bothers you. So I hope you found that useful. It is just a little quick tutorial, and I just thought it might be useful to bob this in as part of the 100 days of sewing, so that it could be referred back to. I think it's useful sometimes to have these in separate videos. Let me know below if there's anything else that you want me to show you how to do, or if you've got a better way of doing it perhaps. And if you want me to demonstrate how to make the whole of this dress, I'll bob a picture of it finished. I already did a tutorial on how to make the chain stitching that went on the belt tabs, and I'll link that at the end as well. That's just a little hand sewn one, but you can actually do it on the sewing machine, and I will do a separate video about that as well. So that's it from me today. Thank you for watching. If you're finding these videos of value to you, please consider liking and subscribing, and comments are always welcome, and I've been really enjoying getting to know people throughout this course of videos, and I will speak to you later. Bye.